Welcome to the Real Estate Dads podcast. We have our guest, Scott Kidd. Scott is a captain in the maritime industry where he has worked in that industry for 25 years. He's a father of 2 daughters and is an active family man and has an amazing story regarding really coming to the U.S. With not much money and following the American dream that his parents instilled in him of being a hard worker. He eventually ended up in Fort Lauderdale with a story with $20 in his pocket, where fast forward to now, he has a real estate portfolio, raises capital for syndications, is a GP and an LP, and is starting his own fund. And we're so happy to have him on the show and to have him tell us our story. So Scott, thanks for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Scott, so tell us about all of this yachting, captaining of ships, not boats, but ships.
Well, I just got in today I was telling Trevor, I just got in today, actually just about an hour ago, to Turks and Caicos from Jamaica. And been working on private yachts for 24, almost 25 years. Did some sailing before that. Kind of just fell into it. I'm lucky I fell into it because I found another thing that I really love other than real estate, multifamily, and syndications and stuff. They're both pretty similar because both need teams for anything to succeed. Because without a team or a good crew, the boat goes nowhere. And it can be a terrible experience because we all have to live with each other. We got to work and live together. It can be like the below deck. We try not to have that much drama because I would imagine most people don't want to have that much drama, but it happens. Certain personalities clash, and you got to just get through it.
And how big are these yachts?
The one I'm on right now is 50 meters, so it's 164 feet.
Yeah, Scott, when you talked about your job a little bit when Max was getting coffee there, it made me think of below deck. So is that at least like 50%? Give us an idea of what you do.
It can be like managing the crew and stuff. That can be the best and the worst parts of it sometimes. It just all depends. You really don't want to have that much drama, and I found that over the years, and just in any job or organization, the people that are working really hard don't really have time for all the drama because they're working.
Yeah,
it happens. Some more than others. And we have our moments, but we try to have a drama-free zone, keep the same people around, because that way we get consistency. And really, what's unique about yachts and stuff, it's really about the service and about the clients. That kind of stuff. It's we got to be able to think on our feet and be there, make things happen. The timeline is usually yesterday to get everything done. They want everything before they think of it. So
and your clients, are they on the, like, how often are they using these vessels, and how often are they out just running whatever function of their life or business?
It depends. The average person, I would say, is usually about 10 weeks a year. If they're a heavy use, usually it's less, 5 years. And then they usually charter them out for about 10 weeks out of the year. If they're using it on, 4 or 5 weeks out of the year, they usually charter it just to offset, and, there's some tax benefits and stuff like that. So most of it's write off, but the yacht for the most part is just a loss. It's not, they really don't make any money for anyone. They're if you're lucky, you might offset 30 to 50% of your costs, salaries and stuff like that. But it comes in, and when it's run as a business, I'm not a CPA or anything, but you are able to offset some of it so you can justify having it. If you chalk it up as entertainment and you're entertaining some of your business clients and stuff like that, and you enjoy being on the water and stuff, it's a cost that you're going to spend anyway. So
that's really amazing, actually. Like, hearing about some of these, I guess it's, when I hear that, I think of this kind of different level of wealth that I'm, not connected with. And, we definitely have, investors who are, wealthy, and we've worked with a lot of, wealthy people. And I've worked for a couple guys who have, some big net worths, but just hearing, about some of these individuals that have yachts that are that large and that they're constantly sailing, pleasure sailing or business sailing in different locations is really, really a different world that you have access to.
Yeah, it's a very unique world and a very small boutique industry. I mean, it's taken me to a lot of places that I've probably never really thought about before and never dreamed of. But I explain it like this, I knew people had a lot of wealth and a lot of money before I got into this line of work. I just didn't know they had that much more than I.
So much, right?
Yeah, it's you hear stories of them, the money spent. Sometimes it's a lot more than most people make in a lifetime. Sometimes, and it's pretty impressive. But when you think about it, you start to get used to it. Like anything else, it's just numbers with zeros behind it.
Well, I was curious what your family life is like. I mean, what's your family look like? Kids, wife, and kind of want to get into what how it works with how your family handles you being gone for so long at a time.
Well, I've been lucky. Worked for some pretty great families that they really they wanted a family oriented program where when I was gone for extensive period of time, they would rent us an apartment, and my family would, especially my wife and kids, when they were young. When the kids were young, they'd come with us. Like they got us an apartment in Italy, so they were close by. Granted, we were pretty busy, but at least they were close by, and we were able to do something. It's opened up for some unique experiences. It kind of gave and I have two daughters. They're 19 and 17 now. Gave them kind of a travel bug, as you would, because we were also, they put us up a different family in Martha's Vineyard for the summer. And I've been lucky to work for some great families that really looked after us. And now I work 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off. So I'm not gone as much, and my kids are a little bit older. Not to say that it's not as difficult, but I know, other people in different careers that have sales careers where they're gone, 3 weeks out of the month and stuff. Also doesn't make it easy, but my wife, she used to work on boats as well, and she's also a yacht charter broker, so she understands. And I call my wife and kids pretty much every night, with WhatsApp and FaceTime, and all those things make it really easy. It doesn't, you're not there, but at least you can, see them and, partake in some of the activities that are going on. And, in that way has made it easier. But they understand that that's, what I do, and what, it's provided for a great life for all of us. It's enabled us to travel and go a lot of different places and live a decent quality life. And I come from a large family. My wife does as well. So we're both very family oriented. You just kind of work it out. There's things that come up. We celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary a couple weeks ago before I got back on the boat. So you can do it. It's not easy, but nothing in life that's worth it is easy. It takes a lot of work. I mean, we're both different people. And as you grow, you just hopefully that you grow with that person. And I'm lucky. My wife is is very amazing. She's I don't know. I'd hate to think where I would be without her. I'd probably be that guy.
Well, you do have her, and you have some kids now. so and 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off, and this has continued, forever. So you've been doing this, working on these, large vessels for 25 years. So had already been doing that for about 5 years prior to meeting your wife, and then your daughters, you said, were 17 and 19.
Yeah, 17 and 19. She's going to be 18 this year. I did. I've been in the boats for about 24 years. So, before that I was IT and had some other businesses and stuff. But, yeah, I met her a couple of years in.
And within that 6 weeks on and 6 weeks off that you do now, was that always the case? So even when they were young, was it similar to that same kind of schedule?
No, this is just in the last couple of years, but I'd always looked towards, and fortunately the industry has grown towards that way where, the boats have gotten very busy and, much larger. So it kind of, in the commercial maritime, that's how most of the careers work. They're on some type of rotation. So it's kind of gravitated towards that, which I think is helpful because then it can have a career and have a family. It makes, it's more accommodating. I think because there's been jobs where I've been gone for extensive periods of time and it was tough. I mean, it wasn't easy, and it didn't really have much time to fly home or couldn't get them to fly out. It was, I'm not going to say it wasn't a struggle, but, we made it through it. We just made it work. My wife was also, her parents were in the Army. So was her grandfather. So she moved around a lot and, there was a lot of, she understands a lot of those things, and I think that's a much tougher lifestyle. Being deployed.
Yeah, it definitely is. So now you've got this job, you've got an ability to be able to have free time, to have your calls with your daughters, and you have your real estate investing career. So let's go into that. So tell us about that a bit.
Well, as you know, it is a great industry. It's also a very unstable one. It's not it's kind of one of those here today, gone tomorrow. You can go from hero to zero all in one day. And if the economy takes a dip, certain people, and I've had it happen to me where they give you the call and say, "Hey, we're not going to do anything with the boat anymore. Just get rid of all the crew, including yourself, and then we'll just call it that. And we're going to put the boat up for sale, or we're going a different direction. We've got somebody else." Can be a very fickle business. So with that said, I, always had in the back of my head, I always had the side hustles or something that I was trying to, and real estate always, I started, with, I bought my first house, family got bigger, rented that one, bought a bigger house, moved on to doing that. And, I just figured, like a lot of people, I buy another house every so often, rent that and keep moving up that way. And then I had a friend that we were, just talking one time, and he told me that, he had bought and sold a 46 unit apartment building in Houston, and he'd made a decent amount of money. And I said, "Well, you can do that." And he goes, "Yeah, you can do that. I did it, so anybody can do it." So that kind of was my light bulb moment, as per se. And I did some more investigating and started going to a lot of meetup groups and just finding out as much as I could, and then eventually invested in some smaller joint ventures and some limited partnerships. Which limited partnerships are basically, as you put up the money and the general partners they run the deal. So and that was a really great experience because the person that I invested with allowed me to learn more about how the whole thing worked, and kind of led me down that path towards syndications.
And are you doing your own syndications now?
Yes, but my main focus is mostly raising capital and investor relations, and focusing on the capital stack, or helping organize the the mortgage loans and stuff like that, private, preferred equity and those type of things, because it's something I can do while I'm still working on the boat, field the phone calls, schedule all my stuff at night or early morning, or, investor relations. I can follow up with investors, and, and that's for the most part. I come in as a co-GP, and I'm also working on my own fund of funds to where I can, be a part of a lot more opportunities.
And how many deals have you funded so far?
To date, I've done one that has gone through. I've had two or three. Let's see, actually three that did not close. I've done two other joint ventures, and I'm working on a fund at the moment.
Are you using the A-vestor? Is that the type of fund you're trying to set up, one that you can go into anything, or are you looking for something particular?
Yes, this particular fund is just a straight fund, but my own fund of funds will probably be A-vestor, because I've bought an e-commerce store, and I'm looking at buying another one, and we're looking at putting the e-commerce stores in the fund and using them to buy multifamily, because the returns are quite good. And it's something that my partner has he has a management company, and he manages the e-commerce stores, and he buys and sells them. And we came up with the idea to put them in the fund. And but right now we're just looking at annualizing the returns to make sure that they're consistent, to figure out what our scale is going to be and how we're able to put them in structure and put in the fund. I don't think it'll be much different than any other businesses, but it's fairly unique, because around the end of the year, the fourth quarter is always heavier, especially when you get into some products. So you want to make sure that's annualized throughout the other quarters. So that's what we're working on right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's cool, man. I hope that goes good. Sure it will.
So far, it's been good. My partner, he's a lot younger than I am, and he's very sharp. He used to be in private equity, and he's but it's strange that he always said he feared he wouldn't get much traction because he looks very young as well. But another friend of mine, she said, "Well, I wouldn't invest in any e-commerce with somebody that's over 50." Because I wouldn't think that they knew what they were doing.
That's funny, man. That almost, when you said it, it almost makes sense, because a lot of times it's the reverse. It's like, I don't want to invest in your deal because you're a kid, right? But for that, it's like the opposite.
Yeah, it's especially like with apartment deals, it's the other way. You really got to have some really solid experience on your team, or no one's really they'll be like, we'll pass. But if it's e-commerce, I know, because I know if I had my dad was working on it, or somebody my age, it'd be a little more iffy for some people, because they're like, well, maybe that's not your area of expertise. Whereas if you're, in your 20s, I think it's a little more believable, because those guys, the millennials get I guess, a bad break. People say they're lazy, but I think they really have so much more opportunity that they can run everything from their phone, that they get a bad rap, because they can, they can put their car in Turo. They can Airbnb their other two rooms or their couch, and buy and sell stuff on Facebook Marketplace, and do all these, sublet their storage units and stuff like that. And, they can literally have two or three side hustles and make more money than most people do at a normal job.
So I have one Turo, 3 Airbnbs, and I have a side buying stuff at an auction and selling it on Facebook Marketplace business too. It's like, nice. You're listing those things off, and I was like, yeah, that's true. I do. Yep. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, it's hats off to you, because I think it's tried to do that, but that stuff really didn't exist. You had the newspaper or the classifieds, and you have to wait for the phone to ring, or or whatever. You have to go and try and sell it at the pawn shop or or the garage sales or, whatever.
Yeah, it's a different world now.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And I think I think they have to figure out how to, gauge the employment and unemployment now, because there's people that they say have dropped out of the workforce, but maybe they're kind of self-employed, but they're not really counted as such,
That's an interesting point.
Mhm. Yeah, it is.
So, I don't know if if you have people that are not in the workforce, maybe there's 4 or 5, maybe 10% of them are just kind of doing some side hustles, or driving an Uber
Right.
or something, but I think it's, there's just, maybe I'm the eternal optimist, because I think that there's just so much opportunity out there. I kind of had my eyes closed to a lot of these things. I didn't know they existed. I didn't know that you could invest in these apartments. I didn't know you could buy an e-commerce store. I didn't know you could do all these things. But the more people I meet, the more things that you see that people are doing. And for me, I get excited, because it's just, people are out doing all these amazing things. And it just kind of, that was the reason why I, went into real estate and stuff, is just because it helped me explore more options that gave me the passive income, that if the job goes away, then, hey, I got that cushion, or I have, at least I know there's opportunities there that I can go after.
Rent's due first of every month, right?
Yeah.
What I like hearing about your setup is that you actually have this ability to have this job and also work in real estate. For those of us who have worked, career real estate, which, I mean, Trevor, you've got some other side hustles. I've been in the real estate
They're
industry since
little compared to my real estate stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, I get it, but I've always kind of had this, feast or famine, job cycle where, there's times where I've made a ton of money in a year. And then all of a sudden we have the great, recession, or we have other years where, it's just a thin year for whatever reason. And, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, you really have to make sure you're a good squirrel. And right now we're in one of those kind of times, where things, there's not as many transactions as there were, and people are doing a lot more business building. But the fact that you've got, this other job that you sounds like you really love, that's also been a very, good long-term career for you, has been kind of awesome. It's awesome to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, I tell people, because a lot of people say, well, when are you going to quit the boats? And I said, probably, I don't think I ever will, because I still love it. And the more I get more into the real estate stuff, and it becomes to where working on the boats is eventually going to be a choice, it makes it a lot easier, and it makes it more fun, and it makes me more relaxed, because I don't necessarily have to be here, but I choose to be here. So I want to make the best of it, so it puts me in a better mindset and a better frame of mind, because, I want a lot of these younger folks to go through these things, and I want them to see that these opportunities that they can do while they're on the boats, and just kind of make their life easier and better, to where they can, buy real estate or start a business, or, just do something that, hey, maybe this is a 10-year career for you, or maybe it's a full-time career for 20 years, but, just to let them know that they have those options, that, it's not, if the job is too much for you, and it's very negative for you, you shouldn't be there. If you don't want to be there, there are options for you to go somewhere else and do other things. It's a choice that everyone can have, if they just open their eyes up and open themselves up to new ideas and new things. And that's something that I'm a big proponent of, is just trying new things. I mean, it might turn out terribly, but you're more than likely, you're probably going to learn something from it. So it's not a total loss.
Well, yeah, you can't grow if you're not, trying, and trying includes a little bit of, failures occur, but, it's getting up from them. And, and I think that's a side note to kind of what you were saying, which is you just have to try. You can't, not, that's the only way guaranteed to not change. And Scott, I have so many questions here. Any crazy stories on these boats, rogue waves or danger out at sea? I mean,
yeah, there's quite a few. I mean, there's some, but, none, unfortunately, that have been, life threatening, but I've had some medical emergencies and things like that, but a lot of them have to be, to think about them, because a lot of these boats also, we sign a lot of NDAs where we're not supposed to really happens on board, stays on board, but it's
Sure.
Yeah.
one of,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of, some people post about it and do all these things, but it's kind of an unwritten.
Well, I guess I wasn't hoping to get any information on the personal actions. I kind of knew there was going to be an NDA clause for that, but I was wondering.
I was planning on naming names.
I'm sure that would go well in your industry.
Yeah. Hey, today is also my last day.
Oh, nice.
Gosh, that would be.
Ooh.
Yeah, let's not.
No.
Let's not. Let's not divulge
not do that.
Well, I guess I was wondering, hurricanes, typhoons, dangers at sea.
Yeah, I've been in some pretty heavy weather. I've actually been through a couple of hurricanes at anchor. And I've been out at sea where it's been blowing 60, 70 knots, and it's not fun. I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but I lived through it. It wasn't, the boats that I was on at those times, they were very strong boats that were made to handle that. So you just kind of slow down and you just have to wait it out. Like any bad thing in your life. Or anything that's tough at that moment, it'll pass. You'll get through it. And most of the time you're a better person for it. You kind of, the kiss the ground when you get there moment.
Wow. What a relatable relatable moments.
Yeah. Yeah. There was one time where a friend of mine and I were on the boat, and we were in the Chesapeake, and the storm was coming, and he and I had just set the anchor, and then a couple of boats anchored near us, and they kept coming down on us. And then we were like, well, we kind of called them on the radio and said, hey, you're pretty close to us. You're getting pretty close. When the breeze picks up, you're going to be on top of us. And they're like, well, no, we only have one motor, this and that. And they were pretty unorganized, and they were actually pretty scared. So I said, well, let's move. So we went and we moved, and right as we dropped the anchor, it was myself and my friend. It started blowing. It was like 50, 60, 80. It was blowing about 100. And it's across the deck, and we're literally crawling back to go inside the boat. And we're both looking at each other. We're actually laughing because we're like, well, I guess this is it.
God.
We're like, but we were tucked in a cove. So probably what would happen, we just, fall overboard, and then we end up on shore somewhere and have to probably get beat up pretty bad at that point because you're exposed. But we made it inside. But we had a pretty big laugh about it the next day, because we were both had that look at each other, and we're like, yeah, this is it.
Oh man. I actually did a program when I was in college called Semester at Sea, and
Really?
Yeah. So when we lived on it was a cruise ship that did not have any cruising facilities, but we were on the ship and went all the way around from Canada, around Southeast Asia, around through past Malaysia up to India, and then around India to Kenya, around the Cape Horn of South Africa, and then over to Brazil, and then up to Cuba, and then up. We finally docked in New Orleans, and it was a fantastic experience. In fact, I've recommended many people to do it. But there was a ship, I think it was maybe 2 years after I went, and they were traveling from Canada to Japan, and they got hit by multiple rogue waves out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And they had some instances of people losing fingers from doors that got slammed when they were trying to get back into their bunks, and they didn't do an all hands on deck because they were concerned everyone would get hit by these waves, and they were in the middle of the Pacific. And a bunch of parents of their kids, once they docked, said, you're coming home. We're not letting you do this program. And I had a fantastic experience. When I hear, these places that you've been to and you living on this ship, it sounds amazing. It sounds fantastic.
Yeah. I saw there was a boat when we were in Port Antonio in Jamaica just recently. It was a Dutch Dutch boat. They were all like it was a Dutch high school. Well, they were out of high school because in the Netherlands they finished high school at 16, and then they were doing like same thing semester at sea. It's kind of a trade or something like that. See if they wanted to go into maritime and it was an older schooner type sailboat, and then they were having the time of their life. They were, swinging off the trapezes and stuff and swimming around the boat and it just, they were all, I didn't see any of them that looked unhappy.
I'm sure not. Yeah, I'm sure not.
Yeah.